Welcome to the powder keg of genius and jest we're calling a roundtable. Let's dive into the belly of the beast without any further ado. Borat, a film as subtle as a sledgehammer to the kneecaps and just as startling. Panelists, brace yourselves.
Let's get this circus on the move. Borat showed us a mirror, and damn, society's reflection was wearing some ugly pants.
Darling, if you think those pants are ugly, you should have seen some of the scripts I turned down. But Borat, that's a whole other ballgame.
The only thing uglier than society's reflection is its ability to ignore what's staring it right in the face. Borat didn't just show us our reflection, it showed us the cracks in the mirror.
If life's a reflection, then Borat's the funhouse mirror at the carnival, distorted and revealing all at once. And who doesn't love a carnival, especially when you can't tell the clowns from the spectators?
Speaking of clowns, I always thought politics was the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. Borat seems to have taken a page out of that book.
With characters larger than life and satire that cuts closer to the bone than a skilled surgeon, Borat has certainly carved its niche. Let's dive right in. Borat has certainly stirred the pot, reflecting and exaggerating cultural stereotypes on a global scale. Richard, your comedy has often grappled with race and societal norms. How do you see Borat in the grand scheme of cultural commentary?
Man, Borat ain't just poking the bear, it's slapping it with a fish. It's taking those ugly stereotypes we all whisper about and shouting them in the town square. I'd say it's like looking in a funhouse mirror. The features are all yours, but they're twisted, exaggerated. It's funny because it's twisted, but it's also a bit tragic because it's us.
But that's the point, isn't it? It forces us to confront our own prejudices, to see them laid bare in a way that's uncomfortable because it's too close to the truth. As someone who's broken a few barriers myself, I can appreciate the boldness it takes to hold that mirror up to society.
Well, let's not start handing out medals just yet. Satire's been around since the Greeks, and they were poking fun at society without needing to resort to a fake Kazakh journalist. But I'll admit, there's something to be said for the way Borat skewers modern sensibilities. It's not just the stereotype, it's the reaction to the stereotype that's illuminating, and occasionally horrifying. Exactly, man. It's the reaction. People let their guard down around Borat because they see him as this clueless foreigner. Then, bam, they're revealing their own biases, laughing at things they'd never acknowledge in polite company.
But here's the rub. Where's the line? Sure, it's all well and good to say you're holding up a mirror to society, but at what point does the reflection become its own grotesque sideshow? Are we enlightening the audience, or just giving them a pass to laugh at someone else's expense?
The beauty and danger of Borat lie precisely in that ambiguity. Sacha Cohen's diving headfirst into the murky waters of satire, and he's not just swimming, he's making waves. The question is, do these waves cleanse the filth, or merely spread it around? Comedy at its best is a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. But sometimes, to get someone's attention, you need to start with the sledgehammer and then use the scalpel.
Yet there's a finesse in how you wield that sledgehammer. It's not about the shock, it's about what comes after the shock. The reflection, the awareness.
Awareness, ha! Most folks wouldn't know awareness if it bit them on their assets. But Borat? He's like the court jester, the only one who can tell the king he's wearing no clothes without losing his head. Well, hopefully.
It's clear Borat wears many hats, a jester's cap among them. He challenges us, discomforts us, but maybe, just maybe, educates us in the process. What an intriguing start to our discussion. Let's dive into the murky waters of Borat's mockumentary style. Carlin, kick us off. Does this film cross ethical lines for laughs?
Well, the thing about art is it's supposed to challenge us, shake us from our comfy chairs. Borat deceives, sure, but it's a mirror up to society. The question isn't about crossing ethical lines. It's about why those lines are where they are to begin with.
That's all fine and dandy, but deceiving people under the guise of art? I spent my career in satire, but the joke was always on us, not an unsuspecting public. There's a line, and it's there for a reason, and it's not just for fishing.
I'm inclined to agree with Groucho here. Comedy should bring us together, not trick people into being the butt of a joke. There's a way to be funny without making others uncomfortable in their own ignorance.
Oh, come now. The entire point is discomfort. Comedy that plays it safe is like a surgeon operating with a blunt scalpel. Borat is sharp, it cuts deep, but it reveals truths. Yes, it's messy, but so is heart surgery.
See, that's exactly it. It's all about reflecting society's madness. Borat ain't just about the laughs. It's about showing us our own prejudices, our own absurdities. You gotta stir the pot to serve the soup, even if it means a few burns along the way.
And let's not kid ourselves. There's exploitation in all forms of entertainment. The real question should be about the intention behind it. Are we exploiting to demean, or are we holding up a mirror to society, showing people the dirt on their faces?
A mirror might show you your reflection, but it doesn't shove you into the mud. There's educational value in satire, sure, but when the audience doesn't know it's part of the joke, isn't that just mockery?
But isn't that the point, Groucho? To blur the lines a bit? Comedy is supposed to unsettle, to push boundaries. When people don't know they're part of the joke, it's raw, it's real, and it's incredibly revealing.
But at what cost? At a certain point, we have to ask ourselves if the laughs are worth the potential harm and discomfort we're causing. Comedy should uplift, not deceive for the sake of a gag.
Harm, discomfort, ain't that what makes people think, though? If everybody's comfortable, nobody's growing. Borat's a lesson dressed up as a joke. Sometimes you gotta be the fool to speak the truth.
This debate heats up more than a Sunday roast on a summer's day. Comedy, ethics, deception, where we draw the line might just be as subjective as humor itself. Thank you for your fiery insights, everyone. Let's simmer down as we prepare to segue into our next segment. Today's hot potato is about shock value in comedy. Borat threw a hefty dose of it at us. Was it too much, or just what the doctor ordered?
Shock is the egg that comedy hatches from. Borat wasn't just comedy, it was a mirror showing us our ugly sides, laughing while we're uncomfortable. That's the beauty and the curse.
I hear you, George, but shock for shock's sake ain't the goal. Comedy's gotta have soul, man. You can shock someone into thinking, but if they're only remembering the shock, what's the point?
Oh, gentlemen, do we always need to push the envelope till it tears? Laughter comes from recognition from the silly things in life we all share. Shock can be a tool, but it isn't the toolbox.
The shock in Borat is like electric therapy for society. It jolts, yes, but awakens too. Sacha dives deep into character, pushing boundaries to show us reality's absurdities. Is it shocking? Absolutely. Necessary? Even more so.
Shocking people is easy. I do it all the time. Just last week, I shocked an electrician simply by paying his bill. But here's the thing. If your comedy only shocks and doesn't enlighten, then it's as useful as a screen door on a submarine.
But let's not kid ourselves. Every joke has a blade. Borat is a scalpel, dissecting the pretentious and the hypocritical. If we only tickle with feathers, we're not comedians. We're just clowns at a birthday party.
Sure, but it's about knowing the patient. Can't go slicing if they ain't on the table willing. Some of that Borat mess got folks who didn't know they were in surgery.
Well, it seems we can agree that shock has its place. It's about how and when you use it. Comedy shouldn't be a sledgehammer, but a tap on the shoulder that says, look over here, and then makes you smile, or think, or both.
It's about balance, right? Swing too hard and you miss the bell entirely. Sacha found a way to keep the audience on the tightrope with him. That's talent, that's art.
Talent, art, or sheer audacity. Whatever you call it, Borat made us look. And here we are still talking about it. Shock value or not, that's something.
Shock value serves a purpose, but it's clear it's not the only ingredient in the comedy stew. Thanks for a rousing discussion, folks. Let's see what other pots we can stir before the night's out. Now, we dive deep into the heart of Borat's craft. Sacha Baron Cohen's method acting in comparison to the more traditional ways. Robin, your range spans from high-octane improvisation to measured dramatic roles. What's your take on Cohen's deep dive into character?
Oh, diving into the mind of Borat is like exploring the ocean in a canoe. Sacha doesn't just wear a character, he cocoons himself in it, metamorphosing into something else entirely. It's all-consuming. For traditional actors, it's a script, a director's guidance. But for Sacha, it's diving headfirst without looking back. It's madness, but there's method in it.
Well, if that's metamorphosis, then I've been a butterfly in a girdle my entire career. Staying in character? Please. I never left mine. Was I playing God or was God playing me? Sacha walks a mile in another man's mustache, but don't we all? The difference is, I never tried to sell you the mustache after the show.
Honestly, this deep immersion stuff, it's impressive, sure. But let's not forget the craft of drawing laughter from the soul without losing yourself in the process. I lived and breathed Lucy, but at the end of the day, I could step out of her shoes. It was about balance, darling.
Hold up, hold up. Everyone's so hung up on this method acting jazz. Sacha's out there, making you believe he's from Kazakhstan, making a point by being someone he ain't. But remember, comedy's about hitting where it hurts and making you laugh while you're still feeling the sting. It's raw, it's real. Doesn't matter if you're wearing your pants or someone else's.
Here's the kicker. It's all about the message, isn't it? Whether you lock yourself away in a character or just throw on a funny hat, what are you saying with it? Sacha's Borat says a lot about America, peeling back the layers through absurdity. It's not the method, it's the madness and the message that punches.
Well, when you're out there on the tightrope, isn't it thrilling to not know if there's a net below? Sacha's Borat walks that line. The character is the net, the rope, and the fall.
Nets, ropes, falls. Sounds like my last physical exam. But at the heart, isn't comedy the truth masquerading as a lie? Sacha's just holding up a mirror. If you don't like the reflection, don't blame the comedian.
Strong currents from all sides. Sacha's method has certainly cast a long shadow, influencing not just the nature of comedy, but how deeply one can and should immerse in a role. The essence, it seems, isn't in how the character is worn, but in what truths emerge through the performance. Let's carry this thought into our next segment. Welcome back. We're diving into how Borat managed to skate on thin ice, towing the line between profound comedy and stirring up public backlash. Carlin, kick us off. How do you think Controversies serves a comedy?
Look, folks, controversy is the playground of the truth seekers. Borat didn't just skate on thin ice, it dynamited through it to show what lies beneath. Comedy is about pushing those boundaries, making you think while you're too busy laughing to put up your defenses. If you're not pissing someone off, you're probably doing it wrong.
Oh, George, would you give it a rest with the dynamite? Laughter is about bringing joy, not about how many feathers you can ruffle in one go. Sure, Borat made waves, but isn't success more about the smiles and less about the controversy?
Joy? I thought it was about slipping on a banana peel and landing on the truth. Borat did exactly that, but with a Kazakhstani accent. Success, my dear, isn't just measured in smiles, but in the number of uncomfortable squirms in the audience seats.
Squirming, yes, but within reason. There's a fine line there, and Sacha danced on it, in a mankini, no less. It's that audacity paired with intelligence that sparks conversation and, yes, controversy. But it's all calculated, not cruelty. The aim is to unite us in our absurdity, not divide.
Unite us? Please. People were as divided about Borat as they are about pineapple on pizza. It deals out discomfort like cards at a poker game, showing that sometimes the joke's on us. And let's face it, controversy sells. It's the jab before the right hook of insight lands.
And insight's the knockout punch, Dick. But sometimes you've got to ruffle feathers to lay the golden egg of truth. Borat did just that, and we're still talking about it, aren't we? Controversy in this sense isn't just flame fanning, it's igniting a necessary conversation.
So it seems that while controversy can amplify a message, it's the delicate balance of intent and reception that defines its success. Thanks for a spirited discussion, folks. Let's see if we can keep the punches metaphorical as we move on. All right, folks, let's dive into the deep end. Crossing the line in comedy, where should it be? Richard, kick us off.
Man, it's all about intention. You can push boundaries, but if you're punching down, you've lost the plot. Comedy's got to lift folks up, not stomp on them when they're down.
I beg to differ, Richard. Comedy often requires stepping on toes to make people reflect. But yes, there's a fine line. We don't put the punchline in someone's pain unless it serves a higher purpose.
Speaking of lines, I've crossed so many I can't even see them anymore. But here's the rub. Comedy is about challenging norms, shaking the pillars of society with laughter. Not about carefully tiptoeing around sensibilities.
Groucho's onto something. It's not just where you draw the line, it's about who's drawing it. Society's too uptight. We're the sketch artists of reality. Our job is to expose, not to coddle.
I think we're all circling the airport but not landing. Yes, expose, challenge, uplift, but for heaven's sake, do it with heart. We're not just clowns, we're the court jesters, whispering truths in the king's ear with a chuckle.
But Robin, dear, when does the jest become mockery? How do we measure the impact on the jester, the king, and the peasants listening at the door?
That's the million-dollar question. You got to know your audience, carry empathy in one hand and satire in the other. Only then can you navigate this minefield. Empathy, schmempathy. Sometimes the best medicine is a strong dose of reality, prescribed by Dr. Comedian. If you start worrying about every little offendee, comedy's dead, and we're just politicians.
Groucho, my friend, the truth is a killer app in this business. But let's not forget, we're dealing with humans, not machines. Drawing the line means nothing if you don't know why you're drawing it.
It's like walking a tightrope, but the tightrope is on fire, and you're juggling flaming torches. Sure, you might get burned, but oh, the light you'll bring to the darkness.
And there you have it, as fiery a debate as ever. Comedy, lines, empathy, and reality, all part of the rich tapestry that makes us think, laugh, and reflect. Let's keep that fire going as we move to the next segment. Let's dive into the influence of Borat on future comedians and comedy films. Did it set a new bar or unleash chaos?
It did both. Borat ripped off the Band-Aid, showing that comedy can and should push boundaries. We're talking about a film that not only satirized, but also dared to illustrate the absurdities of real life through bold, uncharted mockery. It's freedom with a slice of anarchy.
Ah, but therein lies the rub, George. Sure, it pushed boundaries, but at what cost? Borat was like throwing a grenade into a room and waiting to see who comes out laughing and who comes out suing. It was brilliant, yes, but it also opened Pandora's box. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks offensive is synonymous with funny.
You're both right, but remember, comedy has always been about crossing lines. If I held back every time I feared offending someone, I'd be a mime, not a comedian. Borat did what we've all done in our careers, poke the bear. But this time, the bear was on global television.
Hold on, gentlemen. Yes, Borat was groundbreaking, but let's not confuse shock value with lasting influence. Comedy should leave you thinking, not feeling like you need a shower. We opened doors, but we kept the respect in the room. That film walked a fine line, and sometimes it tripped over it.
Lucille's got a point. Borat was a mirror up to society, ugly bits and all. But the real question is, did it change anything, or did it just make us laugh at the absurdity? Comedy's got power, man. The kind that can change minds, not just tickle ribs.
Change? Maybe not immediately. But it sure as hell got people talking. And in that discussion, there's a chance for change. It's chaos, but with a purpose. Doesn't matter if you're using a feather or a sledgehammer, as long as you get to the core of the matter.
And yet, it's that very chaos that teaches future comedians the wrong lessons. It's not about who can shout the loudest or who can offend the most. It's about making that connection, making people laugh and think. If Borat is the only template they're following, we're in for a stormy future.
Well, storm clouds make for a dramatic backdrop. The thing about comedy, my friends, is that it's always evolving. Borat just sped up the process. We either keep up or we become the punchline.
Appreciate everyone's fiery input. It's clear Borat has sparked diverse opinions on its legacy and the path it's paved for future humorists. Whether it's a new standard or a cautionary tale, its influence on comedy is undeniable. All right, folks, let's dive into the deep end. Borat thrusts political satire right in our faces. Robin, you've danced around political hot potatoes with a chuckle. How do you see Borat wielding this comedic weapon?
Well, Bob, comedy's like a rubber sword. It allows you to make a point without drawing blood. Borat uses humor to pierce through the armor of political correctness, showcasing the absurdity underneath. It's a brave act, tiptoeing across a minefield with a smirk.
Brave? More like foolhardy, if you ask me. In my day, we skewered the establishment with a wink and a nod, not a sledgehammer. This Borat figure is about as subtle as a flying pie. Effective, maybe, but dangerous. Satire should cut, not maim. Groucho. The world's changed. Sometimes you need a sledgehammer to crack the nut of ignorance. Borat doesn't just tap on the glass of societal norms, it shatters it. You gotta shock people into paying attention nowadays.
Oh, I don't know, Richard. There's something to be said for drawing people in with charm and then landing your punch. If you're too aggressive, you risk turning them off completely. Isn't comedy about bringing people together, not dividing them further?
Here's the thing, Lucille. In an age where the truth is batted around like a ping-pong ball, sometimes you need to lob a grenade to get people to notice the court. Borat does more than entertain. It's a mirror held up to society, reflecting our prejudices, our hypocrisies. If that's not an effective tool, I don't know what is.
Strong points across the board. But does the potential for satire to cement divisions concern anyone, or is the aim to provoke thought, regardless of the immediate reaction?
Anything powerful is dangerous, Bob. But silence, complacency, those are more dangerous. If satire pushes you to one side or the other, at least it got you off the fence. Concern? Of course it concerns me. In the right hands, satire is surgical. In the wrong hands, it's a blunt instrument causing more chaos than clarity. Who decides what's right? The audience? The critic? The court jester?
Groucho, my dear chap, we've always danced on the edge of a knife. The key is knowing how to fall without getting cut. Borat may juggle grenades, but there's an art to not blowing oneself up. It invites discussion, ignites debate. Isn't that the cornerstone of democracy?
Democracy, autocracy, bureaucracy, it's all the same circus with different clowns. The danger isn't in using satire, the danger lies in its absence. When leaders become immune to criticism, we're stepping into very dark waters indeed.
I guess the question is, are we making a difference, or are we just adding to the noise? Comedy should enlighten, not just enrage.
Insights as sharp as darts and just as likely to leave a mark. Borat may wield satire as a tool or weapon, but it's clear it's both sharpened and swung by the society it seeks to parody. All right, let's dive into the evolution of prank comedy, contrasting the gentle jabs of yesteryears with the full-blown punches Borat seems to throw. Lucille, you've seen the landscape change. What's your take?
Well, Bob, back in my day, we pulled pranks with a feather touch. Nobody got hurt. Nowadays, it seems the feather's been replaced with a sledgehammer. You can't just barge into people's lives, cameras blazing, and expect no fallout.
Ah, but Lucille, dear, isn't the point of comedy to disturb the comfortable? Borat's not just a man in a funny suit. He's a mirror showing us our ugliest sides, and sometimes that reflection requires a sledgehammer.
Groucho's got a point. The world's gotten more complex, and so has its comedy. We're not dealing with simple misunderstandings anymore. It's about exposing the underbelly of society. If we need to use a sledgehammer to get through some particularly thick skulls, so be it.
There's exposing, and then there's exploiting. Sure, comedy's a tool for reflection, but there's a thin line between making a point and making someone the butt of a joke for a laugh. Borat skirts that line like a figure skater on thin ice.
And sometimes that ice breaks, doesn't it? We can talk all day about intentions, but at the end of it, somebody's going to get wet. And it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt. Borat, sure, it's funny until it's not.
Precisely. It's one thing to lampoon a public figure, quite another to make unsuspecting folks the target. Comedy's got power, you know? Should lift people up, not push them down.
Lift people up? Please, I've been pushing people down since before television had sound. Comedy is combat, my friends. The day we start pulling our punches is the day we hang up our gloves.
The problem isn't the punch, it's whether the audience sees it coming. Today's folks are savvy, they've seen it all. Borat's just the evolution of the jest. Tomorrow, we'll need something even sharper.
Maybe, but there's genius in simplicity. Remember, the most profound truths are found in the simplest jokes. It's not about the shock, it's about the revelation. Make 'em laugh, sure, but make 'em think harder.
And there we have it, a consensus that comedy, like society, evolves, but the core mission remains, to expose, to reflect, and yes, to entertain. Whether through a feather's touch or a sledgehammer's swing, the goal is to open eyes, maybe even hearts. Now let's shimmy to our next topic before we open any wounds here. Let's dive right in. Borat has certainly left its mark, but at what point does humor cross into harm?
It's simple. If your comedy punches down, you're doing it wrong. Borat danced on that razor's edge. Sometimes it felt like exposing hypocrisy. Other times, it just seemed cruel.
I've always believed in finding the funny without leaving a mark. Comedy's about lifting spirits, not breaking them down. Borat, he didn't always stick that landing.
You know, laughter's supposed to be medicine. But who are we healing if our jokes cut too deep? Borat made people laugh, but at what cost?
Comedy's a double-edged sword. With Borat, Sacha wielded it like a master, but even masters nick themselves or others. It's all about intent and reception, and sometimes they don't align.
I might throw a barb or two, but there's art in subtlety. Borat, subtle as a sledgehammer. But then, we're talking about a film that thrived on discomfort.
Art's meant to provoke. Without pushing boundaries, we stagnate. Borat pushed, all right. Maybe too far for some, but isn't that the point?
There's pushing, and then there's shoving. Some of what Borat did felt a lot like shoving. Comedy gotta have heart, or what's the point?
Exactly, dear. Comedy should embrace, not alienate. We have a responsibility to think about the broader impact of our jokes.
But comedy also mirrors society. Borat showed us an unvarnished truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. The goal is to heal through laughter, though.
An unvarnished truth? More like a funhouse mirror. Still, it's hard to ignore the conversations Borat started. Comedy that doesn't risk anything is merely polite clapping.
Strong points all around. It's clear Borat remains a potent example of comedy's power to entertain, enlighten, and occasionally eviscerate. Let's keep wrestling with where that line is drawn, in comedy and beyond. Well, we're coming to the end, but let's not wrap it up without digging a bit deeper into the marrow of Borat. Thoughts?
Borat was like a mirror, man. It made us laugh, but also made us uncomfortable because it showed us our true faces. And sometimes that truth is harder to swallow than my grandmother's dry turkey.
Indeed, Richard, it's comedy that walks on the high wire without a net. It's risky, it's bold. Borat broke barriers, but at what cost? We must always ask ourselves who's laughing and who's being laughed at.
I'd say everyone and no one. That's the beauty of satire. It spares nobody, not even the viewer. Borat was like a comic symphony played with a rubber chicken, utterly ridiculous but strikingly profound.
It's the proverbial slap in the face society needs every so often to wake up. Borat didn't just push boundaries, it obliterated them. It's the role of comedy to point out the elephant in the room and then make it do a silly dance.
Oh, absolutely, George. Comedy is the lemongrass in the soup of life. It can be healing, bringing people together through laughter. But Borat was also divisive, showing that comedy can indeed be a double-edged sword.
With that sword, Borat carved its name deeply into the annals of comedic history. It's left us with plenty to ponder about the power and responsibility inherent in comedy.
And let's not forget the courage it takes to hold up such a mirror to society. It's a tightrope walk over a canyon of controversy.
True, but you gotta be careful not to fall off that rope. Once you cross certain lines, you can't uncross them. Comedy has the power to heal, but also to hurt. Exactly, my dear boy. And yet, if we're too afraid of offending, we risk becoming dull. Comedy must offend at some point. Otherwise, it's not comedy. It's a bedtime story.
That's the crux, isn't it? Borat showcased that to play it safe is to stifle creativity. But there's a thin line between breaking taboos for the sake of art and simply being reckless.
And through it all, comedy at its core is about humanity. Borat showed us ourselves at our worst and our best. It's a kaleidoscope of human absurdity, but also a call for reflection.
So, Borat is a lesson in the power of comedy, a reflection on society, and a catalyst for controversy. It's left an indelible mark on not just comedy, but on how we see ourselves and others.
Couldn't agree more, Bob. It's all about the balance, finding that sweet spot between making them laugh and making them think. As long as we're asking questions and challenging ourselves, comedy like Borat will always have a place at the table, even if it's the kids' table.
Well said, everyone. Thank you for a robust and enlightening discussion. Comedy continues to be our society's most intriguing mirror, and it's up to us to face what it reflects, whether we laugh or cringe. Until next time, keep the laughs coming and the thoughts provoking.